Millions of people around the world have been moved by Freddie Mercury's songs, and his concerts with his band Queen have packed stadiums to the brim. But despite his huge popularity, the man himself was known for being very shy. A lot of people began to tell stories and guess about his personal life because he liked to be alone when he wasn't on stage. Since a movie about Mercury recently came out, we think it's a great time to learn more about the amazing, shocking, and secret life of the rock legend. It's a kind of magic. There was a time when Freddie Mercury was not Freddie Mercury. As it turns out, the lead singer of Queen and one of the best musicians of all time was born in 1946. His name was Farrokh Bulsara. His parents were Parsis, which means they were Indian of a Persian and Zoroastrian descent. He was born in Zanzibar. He went to Zanzibar with his wife to work as a cashier for the British Colonial Office. His father was British. Freddie began learning classical piano when he was 7 years old. When he was 8 years old, he moved to a famous British boarding school just outside of Mumbai. There, it wasn't long before he put together his first band, which had some strange people in it. School years. In middle school, Freddie started a band called the Hectics with a few friends. Not only was Freddie going to be famous and successful, but so would his friend Derek Branch, who became a great actor on British TV. Still, Freddie, a name Farrokh had chosen for himself early on at the British school, would be the best of the bunch. But he still had a long way to go before that could happen. Along the way, he would face some very violent things. The Zanzibar Revolution. Freddie finished school at St. Peter's when he was 17 years old and went back to Zanzibar with his parents. The sad truth is that the deadly Zanzibar Revolution would happen later that same year in 1964. Freddie and his family were in danger, but they were able to leave the country safely, and Freddie soon moved in with his parents in a flat in London. Could have been a graphic designer. A short time after they got to London, Freddie started studying art at the Isleworth Polytechnic in West London. His next step was to get a diploma in art and graphic design from Ealing Art College. His mother told him to look for a job as a graphic artist in an office, but Freddie, who loved music, was set on a career in musical theater. Mary Austin. Freddie met Mary Austin at the stylish Biba store in Kensington in the early 1970s. At first, the wild-looking artistic musician scared her, but she also found him interesting, and they quickly became friends. "I had never met anyone like him before," Mary later said. Mary and Freddie's friendship grew stronger, and they were together for 7 years. Freddie even asked her to marry him. It was too bad that this wouldn't last. Love of his life. He wrote Love of My Life, one of Queen's most famous songs, about Mary Austin. Not only is the song great because of what it says, but Freddie also taught himself how to play the harp for it. When asked in an interview about this, Mercury, always self-pity, stated, "Learning would be too strong a word. I did it chord by chord. Actually, it took longer to tune the thing than to play it. It was a nightmare because every time someone opened the door, the temperature would change and the whole thing would go out. I would hate to have to play harp on stage. I just figured out how it worked, the pedals and everything, and did it bit by bit." Dark Time. Queen was a new band that not many people knew about, so they could only record during off-peak times, usually between 3 and 7 a.m. They were given what was called dark time, said director John Anthony in Is This the Real Life?, the band's autobiography. The Queen story no one tells you. That's when an engineer can produce his favorite band or a T-boy can be used as a tape-op. That's exactly what Robin Jeffrey Cable, Trident's house engineer, was doing at the time. Cordy was working on a side project and heard Freddie singing, so he asked him to add some voices. Freddie's answer would cause a bit of a stir. Recording solo. Robin Jeffrey Cable, who works for Trident, was trying to copy the wall of sound effect made famous by producer Phil Spector on his own. After hearing Freddie sing late at night, he went up to him and asked him to sing lead vocals on the songs he was working on, I Can Hear Music and Going Back. Mercury agreed but asked to be credited under a different name so that people wouldn't mix up his work for Cable with Queen's first album. But the name Freddy picked made a lot of noise. Larry Lurex. A man named Gary Glitter was one of England's most famous glam rock stars at the time. He was a big part of the glam culture of the 1970s and was known for his lively performances and sparkly clothes. Freddy chose to poke fun at him by calling himself Larry Lurex, since Lurex is a material that's often used in glam rock clothes. The songs made Glitter's fans very angry when they came out, and DJs and radio stations all over the country stopped playing them. First album. Not long after the Larry Lurex mess, Queen put out their self-titled first record. It didn't take long for them to become famous in the music world. Many people said the album was as good as Led Zeppelin's first album, and Brian May's guitar playing and Freddy's singing got extra praise. The album's sleeve listed the 4 band members and said, "And nobody played synthesizer," to emphasize that the complex sound came from layered tracks and multiple recordings, not a synthesized sound. Because the album did so well, Mercury was able to get more record deals and was well on his way to becoming a superstar. The broken mic stand. Freddy's mic stand was one of the things that made him famous. He would take his mic on a mic stick that wasn't attached to a stand and wave it around like a staff. Freddy's unique microphone looked a lot like a scepter, like a queen's, but it was made by mistake. His mic stand broke at one of the band's first shows. Freddy didn't get a new stand but kept bringing the old one around because he realized he could use it in different ways on stage. He'd been using it ever since. The Queen and the Thin White Duke. Queen recorded at Trident and met a lot of famous artists. For example, Freddy met David Bowie before he became famous and made Under Pressure with him. Bowie had come to Ealing to play a short set during lunchtime when Mercury was still in college. Freddy followed Bowie around and offered to carry his gear because he was interested in the queer, airy performance. Bowie took him up on his offer and soon had him setting up tables to make a stage out of nothing. Fitting David Bowie's boots. After that, David Bowie came by Mercury's clothes stand in Kensington Market to look for boots to go with one of his outfits. This is what the shop owner, Alan Mayer, remembers. It was a hit, but he said he didn't have any money. Normal in the music business. I told them, look, take them for free. Freddy helped Bowie get the right size boots, so store worker Freddie Mercury gave David Bowie a pair of boots that he couldn't afford. Kenny Everett's Rhapsody. When you talk about Freddie Mercury, you can't leave out Bohemian Rhapsody, his rock opera masterpiece. Mercury had been working on the song since the mid-1960s, and when it was finally recorded and finished in 1975, he went to see his good friend and popular radio DJ Kenny Everett to give him an early listen. The song was over 6 minutes long, so Everett didn't think it would do well if it got played at all. But just to make Mercury laugh, he put it on the turntable and listened. When the song was over, Everett yelled, "Forget it, it's going to be #1 for hundreds of years." Pirate playback. Everett would talk nonstop about a song he had but couldn't play because his radio station hadn't officially accepted it, even though it was in his hands. When he finally played it, without permission, the call line at the station was flooded with calls from people wanting to know when the song would be out. The song became very important to Everett, and he played it 36 times in one day, which is more than 3.5 hours. Recording with MJ. Freddie always looked up to Michael Jackson. In front of other rock and rollers, he would talk about the Jackson 5 and Michael like he was God. After Queen became famous around the world in the early 1980s, Freddie started working with other acts, including Michael Jackson. Unfortunately, even though they respected each other's work, they didn't get along. Michael had become strange and isolated after Thriller, so Freddie couldn't work with him. Recording with Michael Jackson's llama. One time, Freddie went into the recording studio and saw that Michael had brought his llama as a pet with him. The event was remembered by Queen's boss, Jim Beach. Out of the blue, Freddie called me and asked, "Can you come over here? You need to get me out of this room right away." I asked, "What's wrong?" Then he said, "I'm recording with a camel." Each day, Michael brings his pet llama into the studio. "I'm not used to recording with a llama. Enough is enough, I want to leave." Clubbing with Princess Diana. Freddy was close to more than one queen in the mid-1980s. Because the band became so popular so quickly, he was able to meet Princess Diana and start spending time with her. One evening, Freddy, Princess Diana, and Kenny Everett were at Everett's house together, drinking champagne in front of reruns of the Golden Girls with the sound turned down and making up a much naughtier storyline. When Lady D asked them what they were going to do that night, they said they were going to the Royal Vaha Tavern, which is known as London's most famous gay nightclub. Diana told her to come along, even though the reporters were following her around. Freddy and his friends asked, what would be the headline if you were caught in a gay bar crawl? Because the Vaha was known for having rowdy groups. Dragging Diana along. No matter what, Diana demanded she join them, and Freddy spoke up for her. Go on, he told her. Someone told Freddy, let the girl have fun. He and his friend put Diana in male drag, complete with an army jacket, dark aviator glasses, and a leather cap. We thought that the most famous person in the world might just about pass for a gay male model, dressed in a very strange way after looking at her in the dim light. Cat person. Some people say the world is split into people who love cats and people who love dogs. If that's true, then Mercury is definitely in the first group. Freddy always had a soft spot for cats and would take care of up to 6 at a time in his huge Kensington home. He was like a father to his pets, and he would even ask to talk to his cats on the phone when he was on his many trips abroad. But he had a lot more than that kind of bond with his pets. Freddy's children. In his book, Mercury and Me, Hutton wrote, Freddy cared for the cats like they were his own children. He would fuss over them all the time, and if any of them got hurt while Freddy was away, heaven help us. The cats roamed the house and grounds during the day. At night, one of us would gather them and bring them inside. Illness. Mercury's happiness at home with Hutton and their cats didn't last long. Freddy tested positive for HIV in 1987, not long before his birthday. He kept the news to himself and carried on with his life as normal, but it cast a shadow over his career, which was on the rise. The show must go on. Freddy's sickness didn't stop him from working. It probably made him want to record more. Over the next few years, Freddy and the band recorded many songs and put out 3 albums and many singles. Even though Freddy's health was getting worse, he wouldn't say he had AIDS, and his bandmates, being true friends, didn't bring it up. Still, everybody knew they didn't have much time. These are the days of our lives. In Freddy's last year, Queen released the album Innuendo, which included the sad melody, These Are the Days of Our Lives. The song doesn't talk about Freddy's illness directly, but it does look back at the past with longing and sadness. The music video for the song proved what fans had heard and been afraid of. Freddy was sick, and he looked it. He spent countless hours in makeup getting ready so it would be okay, Brian May said. He actually says a kind of goodbye in the video. Mercury smiles at the camera and says, I still love you, in the black and white video's final shot, which were his last words that were recorded on video. I'll finish it when I come back. Brian May, Mercury's friend and guitarist, wrote the slow ballad Mother's Love for him, which he eagerly accepted. Recording sessions were slow because Mercury's health was getting worse. He had finished all but the last verse of the song when he said, I'm not feeling that great. I think I should call it a day for now. I'll finish it next time when I come back, he said. But he never did. And May sings the last line of the finished song. Going home. He'd given himself a limit, Austin later said, and I think that when he couldn't record anymore or have the energy to, it would be the end. Because his life and his joy had been that, and I think without it, he wouldn't have been strong enough to face what he had to face. Zoroastrian funeral. There was a death in 1991 for Freddie Mercury. Freddie had a formal Zoroastrian funeral, and then his body was burned at London's Kensal Green graveyard. Mary Austin received most of his property, including his multi-million-pound fortune and his huge Kensington home. He left her more than just these things, though. Carrying out Freddie's will. I did not want anyone to think I was doing something different from what I normally do. I said I was going to get a facelift. I had to make a case. It was hard to find the right time. Austin told the Daily Mail in an honest interview. "The urn and I just snuck out of the house. So the staff wouldn't think anything was wrong because they talk, and it had to be like any other day. They can't help but give in. He wanted no one to ever know where he was buried, though." Possible gravesite? In 2013, it looked like the question of where Freddie Mercury was buried was finally solved. In loving memory of Farrokh Bulsara, 5 September 1946 through 24 November 1991, pour être toujours près de toi avec tout mon amour. This was written on a small plinth that was found at Kensal Green Cemetery. Legacy. Freddie had a huge and obvious effect on the music world. Even after he died, Queen songs continued to sell incredibly well, and it's thought that they've sold over 300 million records worldwide. Princess Diana's support for the National AIDS Trust after Freddie's death made history when she helped remove the stigma from the disease in the mid-1990s. His life and music have also been the subject of many plays, musicals, and movies, including the recent Bohemian Rhapsody, which is about his life from 1975 to 1987. Understanding his voice. In 2016, a group of researchers led by Professor Christian Herbst looked at all of Mercury's commercially available recordings, both with Queen and as a solo artist, as well as several interviews with him to try to figure out what made his singing voice so special. They found that he could sing in a range of over 3 octaves, though they couldn't say for sure that he could sing in a 4-octave range. They also noticed that he used subharmonics and a very fast vibe in a way that no one else did. Finding the right actor. Beginning in 2010, Freddie's bandmates said they were making a biographical film based on his life. They knew it was important to find the right director and screenwriter, but the main actor would make or break the movie. Several candidates were considered before the perfect one was found. Sacha Baron Cohen. At first, actor and comedian Sacha Baron Cohen was attached to the project. He was a great choice because he could sing well and looked a lot like Mercury. But he eventually dropped out because of artistic differences. After Cohen left, James Starbond, Ben Whishaw was considered to play the part, but he too had to drop out because of problems with his schedule. The perfect fit. Finally, the American actor Rami Malek, who is known for his role in Mr. Robot, was chosen. In his performance, Malek seems to reflect Freddie in almost every way, and his choice was the best choice possible. He even won an Oscar for his work. If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon